This is the Reflector Reflections podcast. My name is Annie. Join me as we journey around the world talking with fellow human design reflectors as they experiment and navigate their unique design. Today's beautiful conversation is with David. David is, you guessed it, a fellow 5-1 reflector with the Cross of Refinement. David is the founder of Soul Blueprint Art, an established artist who has been on his spiritual journey since childhood. And I have been so excited to have this chat with you, and I can't wait to dive in. So welcome.
Thank you very much, Annie. I'm equally as excited. And as I was saying before, I've been giddy this whole time. Looking forward to have a chat with you. So thanks for having me.
Thank you. As we do, I want to talk about you. I want to journey back. I want you to talk to us about how human design discovered you or you discovered human design. Would you like to share with us?
Yes, sure. So I grew up in a religious family. So I've had that opening since I was a kid. But when I was when I just turned 30, I had a big awakening where in a short period of time, um, my whole worldview kind of melted away and a lot of things fell off. And it was during that period of time that I started learning more about astrology, the occult, and different um, ancient practices. And I came across a girl on TikTok who was an astrologer, and she was saying if you love astrology, you're gonna be obsessed with human design because it's like astrology on steroids. So that's when I first heard of it. Went on Jobbing Archive straight away, put in to get my chart. And the first time I've done it, I thought I was born in the evening because my mom always said it took me a very long time to, um, the labor was very long. And the chart came out as a projector, and I had the 4 in the profile line, I had the 4 in there. So I started looking it up, and the projector didn't really sound like me. And then when I got the 4, which is all about community and networking, I was like, absolutely not. Like, this is nothing, nothing like me. I literally went and deleted my account. I was like, I am not gonna get spammed. This is some nonsense. I'm not gonna get emails about something that makes no sense. So I left it, and then a few months later, I kept hearing more and more people talk about it. So then I asked my mom what time I was actually born, and it was actually in the afternoon. And when I've done the second chart, it came out as a reflector, as a 5-1 reflector. And when I started reading about it, I was like, oh yes, like this is it. I get it now. So that was 3 years ago now, and it's been a journey for sure.
And when you found that, I'm going to ask you this, how did it feel? Like you said it was a journey, but when you punched that in, and I did the same, when I first discovered human design, I punched in the whole I'm a projector and I'm like, yeah. But the reflector, it sent me on a 3-day bender. Like I literally was like, I was inconsolable for 3 days. Not saying that's your journey. How was your discovery?
That is 100% the one in us, just being obsessive to no end. I was the same. I just was Googling incessantly everything, trying to go through my chart, like each of the planets and trying to figure out what it is, what the lines are, what everything is. So I went on a bender as well, in digging up information. I think the emotionally, um, the biggest emotion was a relief from a confirmation that I'm not crazy, because as a lot of old programming and a lot of old beliefs started falling apart, I started to, well, I was questioning everything anyway, but I was thinking like my whole life I needed a lot of alone time, and um, for example, but also other things where I was wondering, do I have these behaviors as a result of a trauma or as a result of a situation that kind of like imprinted me to be a certain way, or is this like intrinsically me, like intrinsically my design? So when I was reading more about, especially the lines and the profile types, it 100% was a reassurance of you're not crazy, you're not making this up, you're not being dramatic. Um, it's it's what you need as part of how you work. So um, yeah, overall it was a relief to begin with. Um, yeah, along the obsessive search for all the answers.
I love that. I think that needs to be our new tagline. You're not crazy. You're not making this up. It's not all
Mm,
in your head. This is exactly how it felt.
yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. So, how was when you discovered this? I love to talk about this. When you discovered this and you sit in this space and you look back on your life, would you like to share your life growing up, David?
Yeah, sure. So I was raised in a strict Christian family, which I'm seeing a pattern that a lot of reflectors I listen to have a similar story. So it was, the born again type of um, denomination, and it was just very strict and very restrictive. And when I was about 10 or 11, I realized that I was gay, and I was petrified because um, at that time in Romania, which is where I'm from, um, it was not at all a safe thing for anyone to know that you're gay. Like you could get beat up in the street. Like it was just violently, like to death. Um, it was just not safe at all. And also, I felt like there was something wrong with me because growing up, like we had no TV, no, worldly things. So there was nothing that would have influenced me. Like I've never heard of a gay person. I didn't even know the term. Um, like the only concept of a gay person back then was there was this, um, you know, folk story of people who cross dress and hitchhike and then rape the driver. So that was the only thing I knew about a gay person. So to realize I was gay as well, I was like, well, am I one of those people? Like, how did I end up here? What's wrong with me? So straight away, I got into psychology. So I started getting all the books I could on behavioral psychology and reading, effort to reprogram myself, my mind to change my um, identity, pretty much. So yeah, I've just been doing that throughout my teenage years. So yeah, my teenager years have pretty much been back and forth between being, the good Christian boy versus exploring my identity. So going back and forth. And then when I was 17, I think, yeah, I found out that there's an opportunity that I could go to England to do my studies there. And as soon as I found out, like my whole being like lit up, and it felt like the timeline of me being in Romania closed off. Now everything was pretty much go ahead towards um, leaving and making it out. So yeah, when I was 19, I just moved out on my own to England, came to study, and pretty much spent all of my 20s um, trying to um, decondition. I didn't even know the word, but basically undo a lot of the programming and trying to figure out for myself what the answers to the big questions were for myself beyond what I was raised in. So yeah, uh, it's been a long journey, and it pretty much culminated in my 30s when it happened during lockdown, like many other people. And for me, it was the first time where I was on my own physically, and I got to, for the first time ever, feel my own energy because up until then I always had like, well, I lived with my partner, but I mean, I wasn't in offices, on public transport, in busy places constantly, 8 hours a day,
Yeah.
um, exposed to all this energetic radiation. So that's when, for the first time, I felt my own energy, and I realized um, it just felt like I was wearing this old dingy coat that was not mine, but it was kind of like, I was trying to sludge through life wearing this thing. So a lot of things, a lot of um, limiting beliefs and programming and identity, um, parts of my identity fell off during that period at a fast rate. So um, yeah, that coincided with finding human design, and then it comes in waves. Like your awakening is not just like one thing. It comes in waves, and it's a journey. So that leads me to today.
And thank you so very much for sharing that with us. Because sometimes it's hard to tell our story. It's hard to, we're still deconditioning from the shame or the anger or the frustration and things like that in life. And it's just like, you know what? This is our life and this is how pushed and pulled we have been. I think that, the more I sit and speak with you beautiful other reflectors, the more I realize how much we are kind of like just pushed and pulled and what you were saying there when you finally got out of Romania and you could go to, the UK and you were just like, oh my God, here I am. It must have just been like this huge, just like moment where you're just like, oh, hang on a second. This is really exciting. But at the same time, it's just like, shit.
Yeah, it literally felt like my first couple of years here. I had no identity, so it was just really well. It's hard anyways with the culture shock and everything, but for myself, looking back now, knowing what I know as a reflector, um, yeah, it's just I had gone pretty much my whole life taking on other people's identities and like values and um, you know everything else. And when I was into a new place, I didn't really have that foundation. So yeah, it took me a while um, to find my feet, but it just makes so much sense looking back now, the reflector thing and um, how it can be, if you're not aware of it, if you're not in your power, it can be um, can cause a lot of issues in your life. Um, but once you're aware of it and you take control and you start to be more conscious of your environment, um, physically, your space, the people around you, your work patterns, and so on, um, you just realize that it's actually a superpower because you can um, you can go through the world and pick things that you need when you need it and pretty much take them as your own. And when you don't need it, you can just come back to, being your neutral self. So, um, yeah, I love that.
It's so true. And gosh, does that take some time? I've I found that it just takes time, and I think that's one of the first things was how do I find me? How do I know who I am outside of being around everybody else? It's
Mhm.
it's it's a constant like backwash, I suppose. In the surf, you just get thrust down and then you get pulled back out.
Yeah,
Mm.
exactly.
And it just takes time, doesn't it? You can't get it just in 3 years or 5 years or 7 years or even 14 years. It just takes time after everything that we've been through. I want to ask you, fifth line to fifth line. It's a beast, friend. How have you found that when you found out one, you're a reflector and you had to navigate that, but two, looking at the fact that you're a 5-1, the fifth line, the heretic. the projection field?
Again, a very crucial thing that I learned that I felt like validated that this was true for me. It's interesting, even just growing up, I was thinking about this the other day. There were about 4 instances at different ages. So one happened when I was like 8 or 9, um, where I was in school and well, I was always a um, straight A student, the best in class, that. So I would be fully relaxed and I would say something at the top of my head, and it would send the teacher into a frenzy, like be mad, like to a feral point, like just completely lose the shit. Um, I think one time we had some homework and I didn't know we had homework. So all I said was in my notebook, it didn't say we had homework. And the teacher just absolutely lost it for like 15 minutes, shouting like red in the face. But then that happened with multiple teachers. And I started to notice that nobody else gets that. Like, there's nobody else in my class that's ever been shouted like that. Like, nobody's ever got a reaction that strong. And yes, maybe it wasn't the best thing to say. Um, it wasn't that bad either. Like, how is a kid sending you over the edge that badly? Um, so looking back, um, that's definitely that fifth line where it just triggers people.
Yeah.
When it triggers them the wrong way, it goes really the wrong way. Um, but now as an adult, being an artist, I naturally I'm anti-establishment, anti default, anti not common sense, but what is assumed to be the standard and so on. So um, that could be an Aquarius thing as well, but it's definitely the fifth line as well. And I feel like when I speak to someone, when I really want to get a point across, it just gives me like the tingles to word something in a way where it it cuts a little bit just so they actually hear it, because otherwise I feel like it goes over the head. So I feel like that fifth line makes me word things in a way where it triggers people a bit. And I need to be careful with it. Like um, I find that something controversial or something that I say, something opinionated I say one day, the next day I don't recognize it. So I do have a bit of fear around it where I'm afraid, like, if I'm fully relaxed and really say, something a bit shocking, is it going to be too much?
Yeah.
Um, and another side of this that I found for myself was in my business, like I would write my about page, for example, for my art stuff, and I would write it 20 times. And every time I felt like this is the authentic me, this is what I'm really trying to say. And then I would read it the next day, and it was I didn't even know who wrote it, so I would rewrite it, and I would rewrite it. And like 30 days later, I would come across the first version. I'd be like, "This is it. This is the one." So um, the I need to be careful with how far I go with the fifth line, and that mixed with the fact that we're forever changing, like day to day. Um, it's just, yeah, it's a tight rope to walk. So I
Mm.
felt a lot of resistance even now talking to you. This is the first time I'm talking about my
Mm.
life as a person, not just an artist. Um, so I felt a lot of resistance around um, revealing more personal stuff for that reason, because I'm thinking, what if something that I say is gonna, I don't know, it's gonna be too much, or what if tomorrow whatever I said I don't fully resonate the same. But as long as I'm being true to myself in the moment and I don't have malicious intent, I think that it's fine. I can't overthink everything I say.
I I so respect you in saying everything that you did, because that's exactly how it feels for me too. And I
Right.
I can echo that of going. I am sometimes scared of my fifth line. And I've got 6 gates in my throat. You've got 3. Um, it's this willingness to go, I can't. At one point in my life, I didn't know if I could trust what was going to come out because it was just so. I'm going to tell you exactly how it is right now. And then I love what you just said. Then you worded it so beautifully. The next day, it's just like, I have no attachment to that feeling.
Exactly.
And that is the freaky thing that no one gets about the reflector, because we are ever changing. We are not the same. And sometimes that's why we always, not sometimes, we're always questioning ourselves because we're like, I don't identify with that anymore. I kind of know that that was what I was feeling and thinking. But and there's a shame. Do you feel shame sometimes when you just have
Yeah.
this whole
Yeah.
like expression?
Yeah.
You're like, oh my God, did I say that? Did I think that? Oh, I should have thought about that. Oh my God, I should have waited. Do you feel that?
Yes, 100%, 100%. And even like one example would be like my YouTube channel, where I mean, obviously everyone hates their first videos, but looking back, um, yeah, it's a weird thing. It's a weird thing because in a moment you want to fully express yourself, and then you're thinking of yourself now, and then you're thinking of yourself any other time, and is it? Do I really want to say this? Like, is this really the 360, fully well-rounded opinion that I want to put out there? Especially when you do things on video, when you post things public, it becomes it can lead you into a lot of overthinking, and then the more you overthink, the more awkward it is. So yeah,
Yeah. And sometimes I also love what you were saying there before about when we can kind of connect to who we are, even though we're still processing that kind of going, oh shit, they're going to come at us with a fucking, like burning stake. But it's also like, no, I know what I'm saying is accurate. I know what I'm saying is correct. I'm good. But we still get a little bit paranoid. We're like, oh, what's coming? What's coming? But when we do
yeah,
trust ourselves, we can start to, be a little bit more outward. As a fifth line, I started this podcast and I was shitting myself for time and time again. I still do sometimes, but I also then know, oh, well, oh, well, what's going to happen?
yeah, yeah, exactly. And understanding that whatever they're reacting to is most likely a projection, like you were saying before. It's not your authentic self. So they're only seeing so far into you. So it's they don't see you and react to your authentic you. It's like it only comes that close. Well, we say this, but then it's still
I know
it's still
it still goes through our heads, doesn't it? But it is true. They say that the fifth line is very much like they don't really see us. And then we're also reflectors. So it's just like they doubly don't see us. And so we're like, well, what do I do with this? Do I just fly under the radar? And with your chart and my chart, we're not supposed to fly under the radar, friend. It's just not going to happen. So we've got to like meet this resistance and just go, well, can we put our voices out there? Can we speak our truth? Can we share our truth?
Mm-hmm.
Can we live our design?
Yeah. What do those half gates in the throat mean to you?
To me, or for what I see in you?
Um, Both.
My throat gates mean that I have a very clear expression in how I'm going to show up in the world. Um, I don't, when I say I've got a lot of throat gates, it's not necessarily that I'm going to speak all the time, but when I have something to say, it's going to land. You have that as well. You have your chart. I don't know if you have. It's just sorry. I'm just taking you down a rabbit hole now. But your chart has just so impressed me when I looked at it today, because your chart is so your chart is one of those charts that's so condensed. Like a lot of the charts that I read, reflector charts that I read, it's quite like, gates are here and gates are there, and we're all kind of sporadic and over the place. Your chart is so about your work that you're currently doing. Your life purpose is about creativity. You've got multiple channels in multiple gates. And I get excited for you because it's just like, wow, you have this. It's like a big arrow pointing to your purpose. And it's just like, it's all about creation. It's all about self-expression. It's all about this. You've got, 56 and 60, which are my gates as well. And they're all about like direction and storytelling. And then you've got the gate 1 that's 3 times in your chart as well. And it's like the creative divination. And it's like, oh, David, you look at you go. And you've got, your whole thing is about cross of refinement, which is all about creativity. And that's what you're doing. I love it. Sorry, I get really, really passionate about that because I'm just like, you just excited me so much because,
No, I love it. I never, I was trying to figure out because I feel like most of my gates are, but the most of them are condensed around the root, half gate, and then the throat. And I wasn't sure what it meant in general. Like, is it where I'm the most insecure, or is it where I'm seeking um, the most help? Um, yeah, that's why I just wanted to get your opinion on it.
mm. Well, you've got those 3. You've got your spleen and you've got your sacral and you've got your will center, and they're completely open. And that can be met with some challenges for us because we're generally, so for somebody who comes into your environment that has a defined spleen, for example, we're a little bit more at the mercy of them. We're going to feel that spectrum a little bit more. And the spleen is associated with fear gates. So maybe there's a little more fear when people come. So when you're on your own, you're probably feeling really stable. But when
Yeah,
other people come into your orbit and they've got a defined spleen, you might feel, oh, I'm a bit more shaky. Same as with the sacral. It's like when generators come into your space. I don't know. I don't know you. I don't know what happens in your life, but maybe when you're around generators, you can feel a little bit like, oh, I've got to keep going, or maybe it's the opposite. Maybe you get seasick. Um, that feeling in your stomach that just goes, oh, I feel a little bit unwell. So the same as with that will, it's just like, are you trying to prove things? These are the things that I always talk to people about. And it's just like, I don't know. I don't like to tell people how they feel, but it's something to consider. But for
mhm.
you, I've just seen that you are very much here to create. What you're doing is exactly what you're supposed to be doing. And that's what I
Okay,
love. That's why I'm
that's great.
excited for you because it's
Great.
just like you are doing exactly it. Sorry.
I love it. And I feel like when I'm not creating, um, or when I'm ignoring creating for too long, that's when it goes straight into existential crisis. It goes
Yeah.
straight. There's like no in between. It's like you're either doing this or you're like a tumbleweed. Like, why am I even here? What's the point? You know, before like all the way into existential um, dread, pretty much.
Yeah.
So
And I love that
it's
you
a strong.
yeah. I love that you share that too because you can actually start to maybe think about those thoughts that are going through you and just going, why, when I'm on my own and when I'm in this space, I'm feeling good, but who's come into my environment that makes me feel this way? Something to consider.
Yeah,
I want to talk more about you and this creative work that you're doing. And if you would be open to share with us, me, because we're the Borg. I always joke about that. I'm like, we're the Borg, it's us. It's not me. Share with us, you've created this beautiful blueprint stuff, but how did that start?
sure. So when I came across human design, I felt like when I got my chart, even the second time, it was a bit of an anticlimax in the sense that you get your chart and you don't really know what it means. Like there's a lot of numbers and graphics, but there's no emotional connection. So it's all like very left brain information. If this, then that algorithm. So as I started experimenting with it, I felt like I would I would work with it, but then there'd be like months that would go at a time where it was out of sight, out of mind, and I was lacking that consistency in a way. Like I wanted to I wanted to take all these philosophical ideas and put them into practice in a more flowing way, in a more consistent way. It was just quite staggered for me, and I felt like something was missing between the information and then the real life. Um, so 2 years went by, and then I, after falling down many rabbit holes, I became obsessed with um, these medieval um, cosmological maps. So you know the ones with the Earth in the middle, and then you have the rings with the planets, and then the stars around it, and then the tree of life in the Kabbalah, and then um, symbol, you know, the Ankh, the Egyptian Ankh, and it just blew my mind how these simple symbols and illustrations um, literally crystallized, condensed so much wisdom. Like pretty much everything that I've learned throughout my 20s was all in one image, but it was also like structured and organized and um, simplified into a way where it was it contained information, but then he also was beautiful and he spoke to my emotions, he spoke to the subconscious. So that's why a lot of these symbols, these spiritual symbols, have lasted for thousands of years because they connect to people beyond time, beyond cultures, because um, it speaks to our subconscious, basically. Um, so when I was um, deep into this, I had an aha moment and I thought, what if we can bring something that is visually has a visual um, side to it, something that connects to our emotions, to add to the birth chart, so that when somebody gets it, it's not just information that's the left side of the brain, but there's also something visual that is crystallization of all of that information that speaks to the emotions. So it's like a more immersive, you know, um, full rounded experience. So I instantly became obsessed with this idea. And from the beginning, I felt like it was a download. And I made it very clear like, I'm happy to be your human partner in this, to help you manifest this in the real world. I'm going to need your support 50-50 because there is just so much that I don't know. Like, I'm not a human design expert as much as I love it. I don't have certifications, degrees, and so on. So I need a lot of support into organizing and just making sense of all of this. So it's literally been a journey of literally every day receiving another piece of information, another piece of the puzzle. A lot of messages coming in dreams. So I would go to sleep with a question, would wake up with the answer, and slowly started putting together this soul blueprint map, this artwork, um, and the the composition of the artwork is influenced by the circular cosmological maps and obviously the rave mandala. And then the colors, I couldn't figure out how to color code it. I was thinking, do I just make 64 shades of the rainbow and just associate, attribute them to the gates, or um, there are some color codes in the Brave Mandala already, but they're usually based on whether it's like a fire sign, an air sign, or they're based on different things, and it's not what I was going for. So while I was studying this, I came across the rose cross, uh, the rosary cross, and studying it again, such a beautiful symbol that literally the whole Bible is pretty much summed up in that one cross, and all the magical and alchemical processes. And I realized that the circular shape in the middle, the one with the 12 colors, the rose itself, corresponds with the I Ching um, circle as well. And the rosary cross has all the colors. So it starts from the middle, from white to it splits into three, and then it splits into, I don't remember, but it's all like the elements, the archangel, angels, and so on. So I mapped those colors to the I Ching, and then I mapped the I Ching to the 64 gates. And the way that you can see the artwork behind
Yeah.
me, the way that it's structured is the top half represents your conscious, so it's your conscious sun and your conscious earth. And then the bottom part represents your unconscious, your design part, so your unconscious sun and unconscious earth. And the way it works is the color of your conscious sun and your conscious earth mixes and creates the top half, and the colors of your unconscious sun and earth mix and create the bottom part. So um, and then it has um, a shape of the aura depending on your design type placed on top. So these elements together make it a unique design for each person because everybody's chart is different, and all of these color combinations are going to be different. So it is generative in its nature because it has a system built behind it. It's not something that just it's not an it's not an intuitive color. It's based on a system. So yeah, I finalized the design, and then I created a booklet for that contains all the information in the chart. And we're just focusing on the incarnation cross and your design type. And that was specifically because I want this to be like an entry level product for someone who's just new to the human design journey. So just your incarnation cross and your design type, I think is enough to get you started. And then from then on, there's a lot of experts, a lot of people doing more in-depth or more comprehensive services. So I'm happy to pass the baton on to the next person. But yeah, this is the purpose of this. And um, yeah, the booklet is designed to be very practical. So for each gate, it has a short introduction, but then it's talking about how to apply this right now in a meditation, like each gate, how to apply it today and throughout your life. So it goes from like a micro to like a macro scale, and each one comes with some affirmations. So um, it's I consciously wanted it to be very accessible, very easy to integrate into practical day-to-day life, and I also wanted to be visually to look like an artwork that could stand alone, even if you didn't know anything about human design. So if you have this in your house, somebody comes over doesn't know this stuff, it still looks like something cool on your wall. But then when you know the meaning about it, it acts um, like a totem, like something that activates your design every day. And I feel like this was the missing part for me, where in between my deep dives into the information, I needed something constant to remind me um, of my true self, really. So I feel like having this artwork um, around me is that constant that just reminds me of my authentic self every day. And that's what I want to do for others as well. Really, the mission is just to remind people who they really are beyond messaging, beyond programming. And yeah, I'm really excited to um, have this available for people.
David, thank you, because I've here in my little space, I look up and I've got little artworks that I'm not a very creative person. I've always struggled to draw and express myself through art, I suppose. But I value the visual, and I look up and I print my mandala out so many times, and I look up at it and I need to see it. And I'm looking at this beautiful artwork that you've created, and I'm like, oh my gosh, that's me. Or, I just feel you, what you were saying there. It's just like it's a part, a piece that you can have, in the world of, you can get those what are they called? The sun, the sky maps.
Yeah, yeah, yes,
And this is your blueprint map, like, which is what you've called it. It's like, I like the sky map, but I like the blueprint map more because it's got so many layers. It's not just where my gates are, it's my aura. It's so thank you. Thank you, wisdom entities that have channeled this down through you, because
yeah,
it's beautiful. I want to talk to you about that. I want to ask how that was. Like you were just saying there before that, you were dreaming about it. Did you just sometimes sit there and go, I don't know how this is going to go, but I'm just going to, did you just trust? I guess is what I'm trying to ask. You did. You
yeah,
just trusted.
yeah. So I feel like this is where my background as an artist um, came in, because I really have that muscle developed where I I start a project not knowing what it is. I have an intention, I don't have a picture of the outcome, and I just know because I've done it so many times. I just know, like I know that it will come together. Like there is no room for failure. Um, there just isn't. That's just one area in my life where I have this knowingness. Like there is nothing that can go wrong. Um, no matter what happens, everything is fine. So I had no idea where it was going to go. I just trusted the process, and yeah, I literally had a million screenshots, a million ideas, and I was just a lot of back and forth between. Like I really like the idea of, I don't know if you've seen, there's like photography done of water at different frequencies.
Yeah.
So there's all this abstract. I didn't want it to be too much like a mandala, like like the traditional stuff you get in the spiritual art. Um, so there were a lot of ideas I was playing with. It was just a matter of how do I create this into a system, because I don't want to create something from scratch every time I create a blueprint. Um, so yeah, I would um, get messages in dreams. I would find it in my day to day, or either on social media or hearing something or just getting an idea throughout the day. Um, it's 100% been a collaborative process, um, and yeah, I feel like a steward of it, and it's so different from my traditional art stuff where it's more about myself as an artist and what I think and what I feel.
Yeah.
And this is more like I helped birth this, and I'm really responsible about it making it into the world. Like a baby, like I'm looking after it. I need to make sure to that it reaches the right people and it's starting to get a bit of momentum before it can fly on its own. So yeah, it's a different feeling from than my other artworks. Even though they're all my babies, this one this one feels more like a co-parenting situation.
I love that you said that. I love any art that's birthed. Given I'm a birth doula, I understand the whole birth process. So I can imagine that this is something that you're birthing, and you're allowing it to be in the hands of us. And thank you so very much. I really
Thank you.
appreciate it. Cross of Refinement.
You know what's so interesting? I don't really know much about the crosses. I mean, I read my cross and I read through the list. Um, well, I read it on the Jovian archive, I think, and I struggle to process that information. I don't know what it means for me. I don't get it. But I was doing last December, had was going through a period of, well, another big layer coming off. So I was at a standstill moment where I was like, I don't want anything else anymore. So whatever I do next, it needs to be fully aligned with my soul. So I did a lot of like deep meditation, trying to get very clear answers of, you know, why I'm here specifically right now, and what I need to do next. Um, and the answer to what I'm here to do literally came like, you're here to beautify things. And I was thinking, like, people want a big purpose, like change millions of lives and do all these things. No, just sit there, beautify things, and that's your job done. So yeah, interesting, especially having um, gate 19, my
Mm.
conscious son. Again, you're thinking like, okay, what am I here to do in the world? What's my big impact? And it's like, be sensitive. Okay, great. I'm just gonna be sensitive in the world. So yeah, be sensitive and make things beautiful. I think that's what I'm doing.
Well, gate 19 is in my opinion, much more about than just being sensitive. It's about being very open to collective, the world, nature, plants, people. It's about being able to experience them very deeply. And you've got again, your incarnation cross. You were just saying there before. I didn't really understand it. It is so driven to be you, to use your words, the steward for creativity, for a revolution, to be able to step forward and see things differently, to experience things differently, to be able to kind of pull things in. 19, 33, 1 and 2, right there. It's like, but it's not just that in your chart. As I said to you before, it's not just that. It's because it's so condensed, because a lot of us have it all over the place, but yours is very driven to this. Most things in your chart are all about divine creativity. So I don't think it's just about making things beautiful. I think it's about you being a divine angel in this world who needs to show us visually things that we need in our lives, because we are looking around the world and looking out at nature. And if you can provide that to us, then this is what we need. We need to see ourselves on the wall. We need these beautiful artworks to go, there I am, especially as reflectors. We need to see ourselves. And if you can show us a way to see ourselves, then wow, have a think about
Wow,
that,
that's
friend.
that's beautiful to hear. Yeah, thanks for that.
You are more than welcome. I know we've been going for a while, so let's wrap us up slowly. But if you were to if you were to give some advice to your fellow sisters and brothers on navigating this path of being a reflector or even being a 5-1, would you have anything that you'd like to share with them?
Um, yeah, I think the first part would be to get to know your own energy, to know how you feel, um, apart from stimulation from the external world, from social media, especially social media. Um, yeah, physically, from the expectations of the world, from like projections of how much you should be working, how much you should be earning, how much, how many hours you should be um, hustling and all of that. So create some space from all of that to really feel how you are separate from all these influences and pressures. And that's going to be your baseline. And then from there, just develop your intuition. I think as a number one priority for everyone right now, it would be to develop your intuition, um, because the world is changing a lot, as we can see, and everything, all the traditional structures, all the traditional leaders, even spiritual leaders, everything that we knew to be good and safe and right is being exposed, and it's falling apart basically. And very soon there'll be like no place to turn. Like you won't know where to go for the truth, for the guidance. And the answer is within, absolutely within, especially going from the age of Pisces, the age of Aquarius, going from, top down, spirituality top down, information top down, work top down, to individuals. So everyone getting their own guidance, everyone getting their own um, GPS from within. So your intuition is going to be invaluable. So there's a lot of stuff on the internet. There's a lot of courses. If anything, just make a daily meditation practice with intention, active intention, to sharpen your intuition. And you can do it that way as well. But it should be the number one priority for everyone. It's going to make your life so much easier, especially now.
I love that. I've always, just sharing this with you, um, when I'm talking, it's like I need to lower my gaze because I'm internal. A lot of people can talk to people and have a lot of eye contact. I can't. And I'm noticing that with you too. And I'm feeling this reflection coming back to me going, oh, it's because we have internal vision. So do you find that as well, that you don't like to have complete eye contact with people?
Yeah,
Okay.
100%. And I feel like when I go on a tangent, I'm always like looking
Yes.
around.
Thank you. I sorry to make you uncomfortable there, but I was just like, oh my gosh, that's me. And I've always felt that, why, I don't like to look people in the eye. And when I do look people in the eye, it's generally because I'm chastising them. But I'm looking around and I'm dropping my gaze, and it's because my internal process is it's called inner vision. So I just saw that in you, and I thank you for that, because sometimes I still have doubt about that. And I'm like, why can't I look people in the eye? And I'm like, because we have internal vision. So when we draw on our memories, or when we are talking passionately about something, we're literally in here. Well,
Mm.
in here.
Yeah. That's what it feels like. Like I
Yeah.
don't even see you when I'm talking. Yeah,
Yes.
yeah.
I love it.
And I
Thank
thought it was rude, like like on calls, like work calls and stuff like that. I felt like it was rude to look away, like, are you disinterested or whatever. But again, fascinating to find out things that explain
yeah.
your inherent design.
I did too. And that's where I had that kickback. I've kind of known intellectually that it's just who I am. But
Mm.
people, you kind of just think, well, why can't I look at people? Why am I kind of, I'm not shy, I'm just in here. And it's just like, because you have inner
Yeah,
vision, we think internally, and so our eyes have to drop and we have to lose the anyway, it makes sense. And you just reflected that back to me, friend. And I just reflectors, we are amazing. I love it.
love it.
You just gave me something that I really needed, just a bit of validation to go, I'm not crazy, you're not crazy, this is just how we process. Thank you.
It's all coming 360.
It is. I love
Yeah,
it. Thank you so very much for just sitting in space with me. I know it's early for you there. It's getting late for me here. So I would love to reconnect with you, David, if you have capacity, maybe in a couple of months, and see how we're going with your blueprinting. I just love to see how this little baby's going to expand in this community, because I think it's really needed. But
Thank you. Yes, I would absolutely love that. And thanks for having me. I really, really love this chat and had eye opening moments, just getting your reflection as well. So thank you.
You're welcome. You have a magnificent day, friend. And thank you
And
again
you.
for reaching out.
Thank you. Loved it.
I'll talk
Take
to you
care.
soon.
See you soon. Bye-bye.
Bye.